Some economic relief could also be coming as early as next week after Congress finally passed a $900 billion coronavirus stimulus bill. The package includes $600 direct payments for Americans who earn less than $75,000 a year, as well as for their dependents. Those earning more than $99,000 will not receive a check. Other parts of the deal include an additional $300 in unemployment benefits for each of the next 10 weeks. Small businesses, schools, transit systems, and renters will also receive billions of dollars in assistance. Some money is earmarked for COVID-19 testing, tracing, and vaccine distribution. The measure passed both the Democratic-controlled House and the Republican-controlled Senate with overwhelming majorities. Only 6 senators voted against the relief bill, all Republicans, among them Ted Cruz of Texas and Rick Scott of Florida. Every Democrat voted in favor of the legislation. The bill now heads to President Trump's desk. He is expected to approve the measure. For more, I want to bring in CBS News political reporter Grace Segers. She's in Philadelphia. Grace, welcome. Great to see you. Give us the backstory of the past week on Capitol Hill. How did this deal end up coming to get together so quickly after those months of delay?
So basically what happened is that Congress just ended up pushing against a deadline that they could not avoid. So at the end of the year, we were going to see several coronavirus-related relief programs expire, such as the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which helps gig workers specifically. So we're going to see millions more people lose needed unemployment aid the day after Christmas. We also saw Congress pushing up against a deadline to fund the government, and that is just simply unavoidable. The government needs to be funded, and even though they had done a few extensions, they got to the point where they just simply had to do something. So what we saw over the past couple of weeks was a bipartisan group of lawmakers, both senators and members of the House, saying, okay, we need to do something. And they came up with a roughly $900 billion framework, which was then used by the major leaders of the House and the Senate, such as Speaker Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and they took that bipartisan framework and used it as a basis for negotiations for their own bill. And then finally, they were able to provide their own bill, which then Congress could vote on yesterday.
Right. And as you pointed out, Grace, this bill was attached to the year-end spending bill, which was over 5,500 pages. Lawmakers had just 8 hours to read the whole thing, which did cause some objections. Do we know at this point what else is included in these measures that is unrelated to COVID relief?
Well, as you said, it's an absolutely massive bill. Put together with the COVID relief and the government spending, it's $2.3 trillion. And there are a lot of provisions in there. So, for example, there are a couple related to climate change that would cut the use of hydrofluorocarbons and extend tax credits and development programs for solar and wind energy. There's a provision on creating a museum for national women on the Smithsonian on the National Mall, also for the American Latino on the National Mall. Then you have provisions supporting Tibet, provisions extending a tax credit for racehorse owners. So there's just a bunch that was packed in there, and Congress really had only a few hours to look at it.
Boy, it looks like we could dedicate a whole show and then some to all those provisions. But what was not included in the bill that both Democrats and Republicans wanted? And are there signs that they will be willing to negotiate again early in the new year?
So both Democrats and Republicans ceded critical priorities that they had. Democrats were really supportive of getting direct funding for state and local governments into the bill, and Republicans, particularly McConnell, really wanted inclusion of liability shields for businesses and institutions. That they were unwilling to consider any bill that would not include direct aid to state and local governments. Finally, though, they reached a big concession where they say that there's still direct aid for testing and tracing. So they're saying that they still got what they wanted, but there's more funding for state and local governments, as well as this liability shield issue that needs to be picked up next year. Not to mention that this coronavirus relief bill that just passed, while extending several programs, does not extend them for very long. So the unemployment additional benefits only go through the beginning of March, and the eviction moratorium only extends through January 31st. So yes, come January, when the new Congress convenes, they really are going to need to meet again and address some of these issues.
Not the end of the story. All right. Well, Grace Segers, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.